it's 2 games in a row now where situationally they have not played great. Like, is that something that can get better over the course of a season? Or are people right to be like, we squander opportunities, that's just who we are? Like, how often do you see it where that can improve over the course of a season?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely can improve. But it's a hard thing to improve because typically you are sort of a reflection of your coordinator and then your best players.
Right.
And so either the coordinator isn't deploying the players properly, or the timing of those calls are not, in alignment with the personality of those players in order for them to express the best versions of themselves in the moment. And so those are very volatile that's a very volatile chemistry experiment that's happening in real time.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got to call this play at this time that allows this player to express the best version of himself right now. That's not even taken into effect all of the chemistry that the other team now presents, which is they send the pressure, they have a front like Miami's, they play a certain coverage or a leverage that goes against the thing that you think your players do well. There's so many things that go into that.
So looking at the box at the half, Dominic, first of all, Miami had 24 rush yards and 12 carries. It's like, check, good job defensively. Yeah. Florida State at 180 yards at the break. It's a little over 4 yards a play, so it's not like you're gashing them, but that's a lot of yards at the break against this Miami defense. I'm coming back to this point and speak specifically as much as you feel comfortable, because I know you're close to the situation with the Florida State offense. But it felt like to me, even at 180 yards, that there's opportunities there to be at 250, 275, and it doesn't take much to get there. Is that fanish and foolish on my part because Miami has good players, or do you think there were some things that Florida State might have left out there to maybe have been putting up more points, more than just that first drive, and then a little bit more production? Because I felt like it wasn't that far off from a big half offensively.
Yeah, I felt like 14-10 at the least is where it should have been. You probably 14-13, maybe tied. Again, that's where that first drive, I just thought, man, if you score there, I think this is a completely different game. I think you put a little bit of pressure on them to push the ball down the field a little bit. Because we honestly, like, defensively, looked like we were going to get some stops, and, they looked like they had some stuff figured out, and it wasn't going to be, easy sledding for them either. It wasn't until the third quarter where, things looked a little bit easier for them. But yeah, going in at half, I thought you just didn't take advantage of the opportunity you had to put some pressure on them.
Went back and watched Carson Beck's press conference. He said that, they only dialed up a couple of shot plays, or a few shot plays, but when they did, he said, it worked out where they got the looks they were hoping for. They got the looks they wanted. I don't remember him making any checks at the line, or not many checks at the line. Like it almost was like they were going to ride with whatever they called because they didn't want to deal with the crowd and make it like, because that's Alabama made a lot of line checks and that's where they got into trouble. Is that what they do, or is that just possible? Is that just something you think they got the looks they wanted?
He's been calling protections, all season, and all the breakdowns that I had, he was very, communicative at the line, making plays, either changing plays or changing directions and setting up protections. So that's something that he had done. And I do think they came into the game with, like I said, I thought they had a very simple plan of, we're going to get 3 and fall forward. Sometimes those will be 6. Sometimes those will be 3. I was shocked when I looked and saw that they only went for it on 4th down 3 times and they got it twice. It felt like at the game, it felt like 5. I thought they were 5 for 5 on 4th down. It felt like a lot. And they were really not good on 3rd down either. It was it 5 of 14 on 3rd down. But man, at the game, it did not feel that way. I'll tell you, in real time, it felt like and the reason was because on every 3rd down, they were doing such a good job of there were probably very few incompletions. And when they did run the ball, they were getting in, very fourth and short, fourth and manageable, spots. And when they needed it, they would go. And when they didn't, they would punt. But it was just the ball was just never in danger, all night.
101 view of what Florida State and what Gus Malzahn's offense may need to do this week if they're going to be seeing a lot of pressure packages from Pitt. What are some things that they have in the offense that they can go to relieve that pressure?
Even on your downfield concepts, you always have a hot answer, an answer for pressure. And so, Tommy just has to do a better job of finding that, within the offense. And then again, if he's not going to do that, Gus has to do a better job of sort of designing the offense so that it, like Carson Beck, again, going back to what they did with Carson Beck, they don't even give him an option to push the ball downfield. There was nobody, running anything deep, it was all quick game. So, if you're going to get 5-6 man pressures consistently, you got to just put the ball in your players' hands and let them, all you got to do is, we talk all the time about you never let one guy tackle you. And so, when that happens, you throw quick game and you don't let one guy tackle you and you fall forward. And so now you've got yourself a good offensive play. And it's just that simple, as boring as it sounds, it's just that simple. If you want sort of a blueprint on how to do it, it's what Miami just did. Carson Beck was throwing quick game. Those guys were falling forward. They're getting 6-7 yards on every, pass completion, and the ball's never in danger of, being sack fumble, being thrown for, it's not pushing, it's not in the air a long time. There's not a lot of air time. So there's not a lot of defensive players who have an opportunity at the football.
Real quick, I just want to accentuate how impressive it was what they did with run defense, because you mentioned falling forward a few times today. Mark Fletcher is a bad dude, and
He's
number
really
6
good.
is a little bowling ball too. Like the yards they got were hard fought yards. Like they didn't get anything easy. It was Florida State's defense deserves a lot of credit for what they did against a run.
I agree. Yeah. And I said it earlier, and I used the word phenomenal, and I don't know if you want to use phenomenal in a loss and when you give up 28, points, but they were very good, man. That's a tough offense. Those are some tough guys running the ball. Those are some great schemes. The calls were great, and they're ahead in the game, so they've got control of the clock. And and we got some stops when we needed, and we made some plays when we needed, and it wasn't enough because we just didn't score early to get them down.